Welcome to Maximizing Your Development. This video was created to assist new employees at Prevention First in creating their Individual Development Plans, or IDPs. As a relatively new employee, you may be wondering if it's too early to begin thinking about your future roles at Prevention First. But planning career and skill development with employees is a key way our organization thrives. It is essential that we, as an organization, continue to help our people grow in every way possible. We hope that by the end of this process, you will see that your growth is essential not only to your achievements in your current role, but to the future of Prevention First. There are a few things you might want to gather before we get started. Please pause this video if necessary and collect the following items we will be using during this session. The email you were sent that includes the PowerPoint presentation, the Right Path Assessment Summary, a sample IDP, and a blank IDP form for you to complete. Having a copy of the sample IDP or the blank IDP open on your desktop will be helpful to you as you move through this program. Please also gather a blank piece of paper, something to write with, and your Path 6 assessment results from the Right Path. If you can't locate your individual Path 6 results, you can use the content that's available in the Right Path Assessment Summary document that you were sent. By this time in your tenure at Prevention First, you have most likely worked on your performance goals, which are the objectives that count towards our performance appraisals and are aimed at getting our jobs done. Development goals are more about our personal growth and what we want. They don't necessarily have to tie to the goals of the organization. This is where we can build new skills and try new things. Although this may sound self-serving, the organization often wants to support development goals because as people grow, the organization grows. For example, learning new technology, enhancing our communication skills, or joining a local professional association can benefit both you and the organization. Take a look at our philosophy around development. Decisions about our personal development matter. Creating our goals for personal development and communicating those goals to our leaders is important for our growth. The individual development plan isn't a document we want to develop and then let sit in our files. This is something that's going to be living, breathing, moving, and changing over time. We want you to continue to have conversations that matter about your contributions, your career, skills and abilities, and how to grow your network to help you and the organization advance. Now that we have discussed why it's important to create an IDP, let's discuss how. This is the process that you will take to complete the IDP. The steps in this process correspond to the section numbers in the IDP document. A sample IDP document is included in the files that you have been sent. The first step is to fill in your personal information. As we move through this video, you will see a number in the top right corner of your screen. That number corresponds to the section of the IDP we're working on. These numbers will help you follow along on the document as we work through the content together. The second step in the process is to create your career objective. But first, it's important to take some time to visualize where you're headed in your career. Some people may already have a clear plan, and that's wonderful. But others don't know what their career objective is, or even what it could be. Think about your Right Path profile. If you have it available, review the content in regard to your strengths and struggles. You can use this information to target your objective. What are the types of roles that will play to your strengths and minimize your struggles? For example, if you have a very high extrovert score, you will want to think about a career objective that will allow you to work more with people. If your score is low in adventurousness, You'll want to think about things you can do that won't put you into competition with others. Your Path 6 results will tell you what your ideal working environment is. Take some time to review and think about what that means for your development. Is there an area where you feel you need to grow? Here are some additional questions you might want to consider as you visualize your future. Think about what you value. What are you passionate about? What gives you energy and doesn't feel like a task when you work towards it? When you look forward, where do you want to be? What are the roles, job duties, or opportunities you need to help you reach your goal? Section 2 of the IDP asks you to clarify, what is your career objective? This isn't easy work, but creating a clear objective for your development is essential. One way to do this is to use a mind map to help you visualize your path. A mind map is a tool used to organize information around a central concept or idea, in this case, your career objective. Now you can pause the video and take a few minutes to write down the answers to the questions listed and organize them into a mind map. Write the answers on a piece of paper and be sure to consider anything from your Right Path profile results about your ideal work environment that you feel is relevant to your objective. Once you've reviewed all the information, you'll want to begin your mind map on a blank sheet of paper. Here's an example for you to follow. In the center, write down a central concept, fact, or idea that resonates the most with you from the list you made. Place a circle around it. In this example, the person felt that growing others was a theme they'd like to explore. Ask yourself, what is the first thing that comes to mind when I see this concept? Which of the words that I have written are connected to this concept? Write that down in another circle and draw the connection. Continue to add ideas, concepts, and pieces of information as they come to mind or those that are already written as answers to the questions you asked yourself. In this example, the individual started with roles that they carry, including director, mentor, coach, leader, and even mom. They then drew the lines to the things that corresponded with the roles that they carry. Adding new words that pop up as you do this exercise is perfectly fine. Pause this video again to work on creating your mind map. Now that you have your mind map, consider how these concepts relate to a career objective. What are the roles, job titles, or skill sets that will help you to maximize your strengths? Figuring out your career objective is key to knowing where you're headed. Once you've completed your mind map, explain it to somebody you trust and get their feedback. Talking it through will help you to solidify your career objective and may help you see where your strengths truly lie. Exploring your why, or the reason behind your objective, is a powerful way to ensure you are on the right path. Once you have your objective, you can begin moving towards it deliberately. This is where the rest of the IDP comes in. The next step in this process is to think about which of these development pathways will be where you focus your time. Not everybody wants to be the next senior leader, and not everybody wants to lead teams or projects. In fact, most people say they would like to be the expert in their work, which is a great place to begin. If you aim to remain in your current role and learn all you can, that also adds value to the organization. However, given our development philosophy, it is still an expectation that you grow in that role. Whether that's adding knowledge and skills like learning new technology, enhancing your communication skills, or creating value in some other way, we all must continue to grow because that helps us keep engaged in our jobs. Seeking out new challenges, volunteering for stretch assignments, and working towards something new that's exciting to you are all important factors in employee engagement and organizational growth. So as you get to this step, don't feel bad if you don't want to be a people manager or a senior leader. That's not what the IDP is about. It's about developing in your space and meeting your own goals. In Section 3 of the IDP, you can indicate your development pathway by checking the box that makes the most sense for you at this point in your career. You may have heard about SMART goals at one time or another. For some of you, probably more times than you can count. But just because the concept is familiar doesn't mean we always apply it effectively. We'll take just a few minutes to revisit the concept of SMART goals because they work, and if you use them correctly. One thing we focused on in the IDP is breaking down SMART goals into two categories: short-term goals and long-term goals. This framing helps clarify the scope of your goals and prevents you from setting unrealistic expectations, such as trying to completely reinvent yourself or your role in just 6 months. Just as a refresher, the slide gives you a review of the concept of SMART goals. Take a moment to review it for yourself. Here are some practical tips for setting SMART goals in your IDP. Create both short and long-term goals. Set goals that motivate you. Write your goals down and put them in a place you can see them. Adjust your goals as necessary and recognize and reward yourself when you have met a goal. Even if you've heard this all before, challenge yourself to apply it meaningfully. Look at your desired career outcome. What can you do this year to move the needle? And where do you want to be 3 to 5 years from now? Now that we've covered SMART goals and how to think about short-term and long-term development, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the action planning portion of the IDP. Before you even start writing out your plan, one of the best things you can do is have a conversation that matters. That means stepping beyond surface-level check-ins and actually talking about your skills, goals, and your future. These questions can help you initiate a real conversation with your supervisor, mentor, or even a peer about your development path. The information on your screen are some sample conversation starters around your career contributions, growing your network, or your skills and abilities. When asking for feedback or guidance, you can frame it simply like this: "Hey, I'd like to have a conversation that matters about my growth and development. Can we find some time to talk?" That alone can open the door to meaningful guidance, feedback, and planning. Without these conversations, action plans can fall flat. They might look good on paper, but they won't have the insight, context, or support needed to succeed. When you combine a SMART goal, a thoughtful conversation, and a realistic action plan, you're setting yourself up for actual progress, not just another goal that gathers dust. Let's talk about the development actions, specifically the 70-20-10 rule. Now, I know a lot of us, when we think of development, we automatically think, okay, I need to take a class, maybe attend a conference, or go to a workshop. And yes, those things are part of it, but honestly, that's only a small piece of the picture. Think about this question: where have you learned the most in your career? Usually the answer I hear, and maybe what you're thinking right now, is on the job, by actually doing it. That's to the heart of the 70-20-10 model. Let's break it down. 70% of learning comes from on-the-job experiences. 70% of your growth comes from doing the work, especially when it's new, challenging, or outside your comfort zone. So think stretch assignments, projects you've never done before, tasks that make you just a little bit nervous, the how am I going to pull this off kind of things. That's where the learning happens. I'd like to use a personal example. Right now, our son is learning life skills to carry him into living at college. We told him, "It's time for you to start doing your own laundry." He looked at us and said, "Wait, I'm doing it?" And I said, "Yep, and if you mess it up and everyone's socks turn pink, guess what? You'll know not to do it that way next time." It's the same thing with work. You try, you make a mistake, and you learn. That's how we grow, by doing. The next 20% of development comes from people. Mentors, coaches, peers, leaders, anyone who has been where you want to go. Those folks can give you feedback, share advice, and offer perspective. So if you're thinking about your next step, here's a great move. Find someone in a role you'd like to grow into and just ask, "Can we talk about your path? What helped you get here? What should I be working on?" Those conversations are gold. The 20% can accelerate your growth, especially when combined with what you do on the job. And finally, we've got the 10%. Classes, workshops, conferences, certificates. These are all still important. They give you knowledge that you might not get elsewhere, especially if it's something technical or specialized. For example, I recently went to an awesome workshop I focused on the specific tool, and honestly, no one else I know had that experience. That formal setting was very valuable for the moment. So it's not that the 10% doesn't matter. It absolutely does. It just works best when it's connected to something you're already working on or preparing to do. So remember, 70% learn by doing, 20% learn from others, and 10% learn through formal training. If you're serious about your development, don't wait for someone to send you to a class. Look for ways to stretch yourself in your day-to-day. That's where the magic really happens. Let's dig a little deeper into that 70% on-the-job learning. When we say learn by doing, we're just not talking about cranking out more of your day-to-day tasks. We're talking about taking on new challenges, work that stretches you and builds new skills. So what counts as the 70%? Increases in job scope. Now, I know we're all stretched and everyone is busy, but this isn't about taking on more work. It's about looking for ways to take on different work that helps you grow. For example, is there a committee forming around a key initiative or strategic goal? Is there a cross-functional team that your perspective would add value to? Are there upcoming projects that you could help shape from the ground up? These are great opportunities to raise your hand and get involved. And sometimes it's not about waiting to be asked. It's about leveraging your relationship to ask yourself. Like, hey, is there a way I can get involved in that? Second, horizontal moves. One of the most significant development experiences we've seen in our organization over the past year or two has been lateral horizontal moves. These moves can be transformational, even if it's not a promotion. They give you exposure to different parts of the organization, new people to work with, and different processes and priorities to learn. And they broaden your skill set in a way that often opens the door to future upward movement. So if a lateral move is on the table, don't discount it. It could be exactly what you need to grow. Another big one is stretch assignments. Taking sole responsibility for something you've never done before. That's where the real growth happens. And guess what? You can lobby for that. Bring it up with your leader. You can ask, what's something I can take on to build my skills? Is there a project I could lead or a challenge that I could help solve? The last initiative is delegating for development. And this is where, for leaders who are viewing this video, think about your team. What are the critical but not urgent tasks that you could delegate in a way that creates a growth opportunity? Is there a planning process coming up? A new initiative taking shape? Tasks you normally do but somebody else could try with your support? If you're a leader, your role is to grow your people, and that means being intentional about creating those opportunities, not just assigning work, but building capacity. The 70% doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you raise your hand, you seek out new challenges, and leaders create space for growth. That's what real on-the-job development looks like. So that's really what it comes down to. This is how we create our individual development plans, or our IDPs. And here's the key. There's no single formula. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Your IDP is all about you, how you want to grow, what you want to learn, and where you want to go in this organization. The expectation isn't that everyone has to move into a new role tomorrow. The expectation is simply this: grow. Grow in your current role, grow into a new role, and create your own opportunities wherever you are. If we all adopt that mindset, that feedback is a gift and growth is essential, then not only will each of us benefit, but so will the entire organization. That's how we build a culture of development. So what's next? Let's talk about those next steps. Here's what I'd like you to do. Take your time to think about your goals. Create a mind map. This will help you explore ideas before jumping into a formal plan. Look at the example IDP. This can guide you as you build your own. Access the IDP documents. A link to these documents was provided in the email you received before viewing this video. And reach out to HR. Seriously, they would love to help. Whether you want to discuss a single part of it or go through your whole plan, we're here to help. You don't have to do this alone. You just have to start. The goal of the IDP is to incorporate development into your work, not as a one-time task, but as a habit. Thank you for your time, and best of luck as you maximize your development.
Prevention first. Every decision matters.